Hi, let's start with new topic that is nothing but the constraints. Database constraints, SQL constraints, whatever you would like to call it. But whenever you talk about the constraints, remember that these constraints are the rules. That rules we put on the table, more precisely on the column. We put on the table, or more precisely you can say we put on the column, to maintain the integrity, accuracy, and the consistency of the data. To maintain integrity, accuracy, and the consistency of the data. Constraints ensure that the data in the table follows the predefined conditions are met. Right? So when you talk about the constraints, you are talking about the rules that we put on the table. Now, these many constraints are available. Primary key constraint, foreign key constraint, unique constraint, not null constraint, check constraint, right? There are other as well, but as far as this topic is concerned, we'll talk about these many only. So when you talk about constraints, these are the main things you need to know. Let us try to create the actual constraints. Okay, if you remember, we have installed one extension. If you remember, we have installed one extension in the SQL, that is a SQL notebook, right? So here you can go inside the, if you have not watched this video and you have directly landed on this video, I request you, please go to concerned video in which I have explained the connectivity. We can do the connectivity by using SQL prompt, right? From here also you can type the code, and from here also type the code. Okay, so let's try to do that thing. Now, how to do that? So demo.sql I have written. If you want to create new SQL, you can create a new SQL as well. Here you can say new file, or just rename this file, that's okay. Rename and here I can say what's that? Constraints.sql, right? It would be the normal file. Right click, open with SQL notebook, right? You can create a new file, right click, open with SQL notebook. So it would be like this. So click over here, plus code, and now we can say, let's try to create the database first. Create database YTDB, YouTube DB. Hit the enter. Not enter. Can you see this play button? Hit that. And if you see green tick mark and this information, you have created this. Second thing, add one more cell. So why I'm using notebook? You can see all the commands like this. So whatever we have fired. But if you do it in the prompt, you cannot see the history in this much elegant way. That's what we have discussed in the last video. Not last video, the video in which I have explained the connectivity. Okay, so create database YTDB. Then what we can do? Now use YTDB. Run it. You have used this database, use YTDB, create one more command. And then here we can say, I already have written the SQL in the notebook. If you want to copy straight away from here, you can copy that. Otherwise, I will highly recommend to type it. Okay, create table employees. We can say create table employees. So I may delete this table next time, or I may drop the table employees and round bracket, hit the enter. See here, you can take the privilege of doing it in the multi-line, but if you want to do it multi-line over here, there are little efforts. Okay, semicolon, here we can say create table employees, and here we can say emp underscore id int, and we need to add the primary key constraints. So I need to add the comment, so 2 double dash, this is how you will add the comment, primary key constraint. Remember that in the last video I said we are now working with extensive code. Everything would be in the code. We have seen a lot of theory for the SQL, right? We have seen a lot of theory for the SQL. Now it's time to type it. So from last lecture, everything is a practical, right? But in the SQL, theory is literally important. If there is a no theory, you cannot work with the SQL, even with the Mongo also. Okay, the name I can say varchar. So generally whenever you say name column, just attach emp underscore nm, just to avoid ambiguity with the name keyword of MySQL. Varchar, and here we can say 50 and age int. This is how you will add what you can say primary key constraint, right? Primary key constraint. See here, this has been added. So tell me what is a command for showing all the tables. Write it in the comment box. What command shall I use to check all the tables? If you have seen all the previous videos properly, you might be knowing the answer. So primary key constraint. Now can you see? Can you see? I'm pushing this much code to the Git, and we can say constraints. Now constraints or SQL constraints, primary key constraint. Primary key constraint. So how to push the code, how to see the things, that also have been explained in the Git related videos. You may check that as well. Primary key constraint, if you see here. Similarly, there are other constraints also. Now what is a primary key constraint? Let's try to insert. So presently you don't know the DML, but we will see at the time of DML. So let me delete this thing. So what happens with the primary key constraints, we'll see at the time of DML. So let's try to create another constraint also, foreign key constraint. So be, what you can say, just follow the pattern everywhere. Instead of primary key, we can say foreign key constraint. Now here we can say create table orders. So we will try to refer to the employee table, create table orders, ord underscore id, ord underscore id, just a minute, I am updating the doc. Fine. ord id, here we can say int primary key, ord id primary key. Then I would refer it to this employee id. So here I can say emp underscore id, that is also int. Either you can write everything in the caps or you can write everything in the small. So we have seen this also, case sensitivity, ORDDT. type is date. Now see how to add the foreign key constraint. So foreign, FOREIGN, foreign key. So inside this table, this EMP ID is a foreign key. So you can write like this: references to which table? This employee table. References to which table? This employees table, name of the table. Inside this table, which column you are referencing? EMP ID, right? So this can be same, this column name, remember that, foreign key, this column name, references, employee table, this column name, right? So this is how foreign key will work. So orders table, inside the orders table you have, inside the orders table you have this EMP ID, but this EMP ID should point to the primary key of the employee table. That's what we have achieved over here. Can you see there is a green tick mark and it is working. Now there is a unique constraint. So foreign key constraint, a unique constraint. So let me first add it to the Git constraint. Constraint and foreign key constraint. Foreign key constraint. Okay. Now this is the foreign key constraint. Then unique constraint, copy the comment so it would be easier for you to refer the code. Unique, not null, and the check. So I will explain it on the one table only. Unique, it's not required, unique, not null, and check. So I'm explaining on the one table itself directly. So create table product, create table product. Inside that we would be having product ID. So int primary key, name varchar. Varchar is the data type. If you remember, we have seen data types also separately, prd_id and barcode. Now see, that is also of type varchar 50, length is 50, and unique. So this is a unique. Similarly, you can say product not null. Name should not be null. Product name should not be null. Right? And here we can say price. Int. So we need to just check constraint. Can you see that? Check this price must be greater than 10 rupees. Price must be greater than what? The 10 rupees. So I explain unique, not null, and the check. So primary key constraint, here we have said, this primary key constraint will say that primary key, we have seen the theory behind the primary key. So when you talk about the primary key, it is a unique, right? And which is used to identify which is used to identify the rows uniquely. That's what the primary key. Foreign key, references. And now as name suggests, unique, not null, and the check. Check means what? Whatever price you will have, that should be greater than 10 rupees. Unique means what? It is not a primary key, but still I need a uniqueness. This should be unique. And name should not be null. And name should not be null, right? So here we have seen three important constraints. First, let me run it. You can see there is the green tick mark which is working properly. See here. So inside this SQL notebook, we have seen the constraints: primary key constraint, foreign key constraint, unique, not null, check. So when you talk about the primary key, identifying rows uniquely, there is a unique number, right, which is used to identify the rows. That is the primary key. That's what we have seen under the primary key section. Orders, foreign key. So this order table is pointing to the employee table, right, by means of this constraint, foreign key constraint. And the product table we have seen, product should not be null, barcode should be unique. See, this unique, which is not used to identify the row, right? But I need a uniqueness over here. It shouldn't be a row identifier, but I need uniqueness over here. But primary key is different. It is used in the foreign key, right? We can something like this. If someone is pointing to this table, at that time they will use the product ID and not the barcode. Why? This is the primary key. Okay. And check constraint. Check means what? Until and unless price is greater than 10, it will not work. So these are the tables we have created. These are the tables we have created. Okay. So let me push it, constraint, and here we can say unique, not null, and check. Also, I have requested you to drop me the comment, how do you check all the tables, and also write a comment, how do you check the table description. I want to check the details of this table, how do you do that? And I want to check how many tables are there, how do you do that? Write it in the comment. If you have understood this session, let me know in the comment. If you have any queries, also let me know in the comment. And if you have directly landed on this video, remember that I think this is the 66th video of the series. You need to start from the first and then you need to come over here, right? If you want to get detailed understanding of the course. Thank you. See you in the next video.